Oh, I just don't know where to begin. Who knows how that song goes? Right, hi, well, I'm Ian. Welcome to my showcase. I don't know who's out there. Where I'm sitting, I can't quite see that sort of stuff, but I hope to work that out a bit later on as I go. Welcome to my showcase, did I say that? And thank you, Sandy Stewart, for inviting me to do this. I joined this community, this songwriting community, about 3 years ago, I think. And I am 65 years old. I tell you that because I wrote my first song when I was 15 years old. So I've been doing this songwriting thing for 50 years. And I reckon I've written around 500 songs. Not all of them good. I'm not going to entertain you with just loads and loads of songs tonight, partly because YouTube is full of my songs and they're all out there if you want to go and find them. But also, I'm 65 years old, I've got arthritic hands, so I can only play in short bursts really, so I'm not going to play a whole load of sustained stuff, but I will sort of play throughout the evening. I've reached that stage where actually I can honestly say that as a guitar player my fingers are like lightning and that they're unlikely to land in the same place twice. I'm sure they'll be alright for something like this. So what I thought I would do is sing a couple of songs, talk about maybe how I wrote those songs. I don't think I could teach anyone how to write a song, but what I can do is try and explain a little bit about how I write songs or how I wrote certain songs. So as any songwriter knows, every song starts with nothing, and our job is to try and turn it into a something. So here's a song that sort of tries to unwrap that mystical process a little bit, and this is called In the Songwriting Room. I'm in the songwriting room where Paddy McAloon alchemized words and tunes. With gods of the past I spar, hear Lou Morrissey and Ma, John and Macca, Phil and Don, Strummer Jones and Neil Young. Now I try to write a song fit for the pantheon, 'cause I'm in the songwriting room where Jimmy Webb spun gold and Joni bared her soul. I pursue the artist's muse, as did Otis, Sid and Bruce, Dylan Bowie, Keith and Mick, Alan Hull and Barry Gibb. Are there any great songs left that they haven't written yet? Today I feel the weight of rock and roll's great hall of fame beating down on me. I'm in the songwriting room. The baton's been passed on, Robert Johnson's dusty broom. Dolly Parton toiled like this, Bjorn and Benny, Ray Davis, Chrissie Hynde, Kate Bush, Jay-Z, Ralph McTell and Bob Marley. Surely every chord's been strummed, every melody. Today I feel the weight of rock and roll's great hall of fame beating down on me. Sometimes I ask myself, what would Costello do? I'd love a drink with Sting when stuck to fix a rhyme or two. If Holland Dozier Holland could reach out to me today, like Paul Simon in his prime, I'd say, tell me about your 50 ways. I feel the weight of rock and roll's great hall of fame beating down on me. I'm in the songwriting room with legends from the past who've all faced the same task. I'm with Lieber and Stoller, Buddy Holly, Fats Waller, Paul Weller, Cole Porter, Graham Parker, Jarvis Cocker, Muddy Waters, Neil Sedaka, Leonard Cohen, Roy Harper, Mark Bolan, Stevie Wonder, Alan Toussaint, Ian Hunter, Tom Lehrer, Tom Paxton, Lou Reed and Pete Townsend, Jackie Levin, Guy Garvey, Roy Wood and Woody Guthrie, Brian Wilson, Harry Nilsson, Randy Newman, Willie Nelson, Robbie Robertson, Chris Christopherson, Smokey Robinson, Norman Patterson. Today we shared the weight, the pleasure and the pain, the joyous quest and all its legacies, which were beating down on me. Cheers. Hay fever season, I've got a sore throat, so apologies for that. How did I write a song like in the songwriting room? Well, on one level it's just an exercise in making a list of all my favourite songwriters and then sort of grouping them into names with similar sounds. Fats Waller, Lieber and Stoller, Muddy Waters, Cole Porter, Smokey Robinson, Norman Patterson. Hello Norman if you're out there somewhere. I remember I couldn't think of a rhyme for Jagger and Richards or for Barry Gibb. And I flipped Jagger and Richards into Mick and Keith, and that wasn't going anywhere. And then I flipped that into Keith and Mick, and voila, that rhymed with Barry Gibb. So it's just trial and error, I think, writing a song like that. Like doing a jigsaw puzzle, maybe. And I had more songwriters than I needed. So I just did that last verse really, 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 really long, as you would have noticed, like Bob Dylan used to do. It's my song, there's no rules, I can do that if I want, I think. But maybe another way to explain how I wrote that song is to take you back to when I was 15. My sister had a guitar, which she never ever played. And I said to her, "Can I have your guitar?" And she said, "Yeah, sure." So now I just had to work out how to play it. My brother could play a bit of guitar, although he didn't have a guitar, but he had a chord sheet. And he had a chord sheet with all the words written out in hand for Streets of London by Ralph McTell. And there were little capital letters with circles around over certain words showing where the chords went. And some little picture diagrams with like circles and lines showing what string you put which finger on to make that chord. So I sat down with that for about half an hour trying to work that out. And I got some rudimentary strumming thing going in my right hand. And probably half an hour later I was playing Have you seen the old man who walks the streets of London, kicking up the papers in his worn out shoes? In his eyes you'll see no pride, hands held loosely at his side. Yesterday's papers telling yesterday's news. I'll tell you something, that moment changed my life. Because playing guitar was so much fun. After I'd played Streets of London for about half an hour, I thought I'd have a go at playing the song on the other side, which was House of the Rising Sun. So I sat down to get my head round those chords, and then I sort of twigged that, hang on, I think these are all the same chords, they're just in a different order. So really quickly I could play there is a house in New Orleans they call the rising sun. And that was like mind-blowing to me. Who knew that different songs could come from the same chords? My brother didn't have any more chord sheets, so there was nothing else to play. The internet hadn't been invented. I had no idea where you would go and get sheet music from. But here's a light bulb moment. I suddenly thought, well, if you can get two different songs like Streets of London and House of the Rising Sun out of basically the same chords, just in a different order, well, why don't I just play around with those chords and see if I can write a song of my own? And I sat down to do that, and I came up with a song called Social Jungle, which there's a bit that goes, I'm okay now, I ain't trapped in this social jungle, which was, to be honest, complete rubbish and pretentious twaddle. But hey, I was 15, so you're allowed to be pretentious, aren't you, when you're 15? But that's when I discovered that I was a songwriter. I'd written a song. 30 minutes later, there wasn't a song in the world called Social Jungle, and now there was, and I had written it. I just sort of conjured it out of nothing, and it was like a magical, mystical thing. And I knew then that I would never ever get tired of doing that, and I never have. 50 years later, I still love writing songs. It's just the most fun I know how to have. So what I thought I might do is take you on a bit of a deep dive, sort of Song Exploder style, into how I wrote my December challenge song. You might remember, some of you would have been in that challenge. We had to write a song called Shooting Star. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to play you that song, and then I'll probably just take it apart a bit and show you how I got to where I ended up. Hang on. Put this where I can see it. So here's Shooting Star. She was looking for her people. She still hadn't found her tribe. Wondering if that ship had sailed by now and she'd gotten left behind. All her grand plans had their own plans, which just wouldn't be ignored. What she needed was a simple life, which complicates life more. Not everyone's a shooting star, no. He was trying to learn the difference between chance and happenstance, between loneliness and solitude with no real life friends to ask. He felt fragile, disconnected, scared how vulnerable he was, to be searching all this time to find he got completely lost. Not everyone is a shooting star. Some lives splutter damp squib style, orbiting emptiness. Where her tears fell, she had scorch marks, her heart punctured beyond words. No one near to care what she might say. She'd stop talking to be heard. She was making poor decisions, but what difference could it make? She would stare into the madness, hoping that might drive her sane. Not everyone's a shooting star. No. In his head, the dead and dying were absorbing all the light. How he yearned for someone, anyone, to wade in and put things right. He was under no illusions. Cupid had him in his sights. He was sure no one could handle all the rage he held inside. Not everyone is a shooting star. Some life splutter damp squib style, orbiting emptiness. They were standing by for liftoff, but the countdown never came. There is only so much dark night sky, a sunken face feeling lost in space and fizzling out. Not everyone hits the heights. Some stars collapse into the void, lost inside black holes of nothingness. Cheers. That's what I mean by my fingers sort of cramping up every now and then. Not my best song by any means, but recent enough that I can remember sort of what I was thinking about and how I wrote it. People ask me, what do you begin with, the words or the music? And that's not really how I write songs. I mean, I could write a set of lyrics and put a tune to them, and I could write a melody and find words for it, but I just don't tend to do that. I tend to find that if I get a little line, a phrase, some words, they tend to come pretty much with music, or I'm singing them pretty much straight away, or I found a little rhythm. Helps me remember them in some ways. And similarly, if I'm sitting down playing some chords, I will almost certainly just start throwing some words around and singing. So my songs come from many different directions and they get knocked about in many different ways, really. Sometimes the first bit I start with might end up being, part of the bridge, or it might be a pre-chorus, it might be verse 3. I just sometimes have to work out, where do I go from here, or how did I get here, or do I go sideways and come back at this from a different way? I like the adventure of, words and music emerging together and seeing where that goes. And I sometimes write a song because I've got something I want to express, or there's something I want to say. And sometimes, there's just a style that grabs me. I think maybe I could write a reggae song, Sometimes it's just like a rhythm that I think, I could do something with that Bo Diddley rhythm or something, whatever it might be. Sometimes I get a new chord, and the Beatles used to say, if you get a new chord, write a song with it. And I do that. If I get a new chord, I write a song around it. Partly it's a good way to get a new chord under your fingers, to get familiar with it, but also I don't know that chord, so I'm going to write a song unlike any other song that I've written before, so that just keeps it fresh. And Shooting Star started with a new chord. I was lost on YouTube, as you sometimes are, and I saw this guitar playing guy, and he played this chord. which he told me was a D add 9 sus4, and I am prepared to trust him on that. But it's a 2-finger chord, which I'd never really come across before, and it's quite interesting. Is it a major chord? Is it a minor chord? Hard to say really, I wasn't sure, but I liked it. So I thought I'd write a song with that, and that song flows, that chord pops up quite a lot in this song. And then I'm trying to find another chord to go with it, so that's just trial and error. Trying to find one that feels like it belongs. Until I hit on B minor 9, and I thought that works quite well. B minor 9 is just B minor, where you take your little finger off really. So I've got these 2 chords, and I quite like those. And then, I don't know, the doorbell rang, or I went and made a cup of tea or something. And when I came back and picked up my guitar, for some reason, I just played them in the wrong order. I played this one first, and then that chord, and I just liked it better that way. So although this song started with that chord, that D add 9 sus4 thing, that's actually the 2nd chord in the song. So that was just like serendipity or something. And I was playing these 2 chords, and it reminded me of something. And it took me a while to think, I'm thinking of Cortez the Killer by Neil Young. Do you know that song? Hang on. He come dancing across the water, man, with his galleons and guns, looking for a new home, palace in the sun. On the shore lay Montezuma, with his cocoa leaves and pearls. In his halls he often wandered, with the secrets of the world. He come a-dancing across the water, man. Cortez, Cortez, what a killer. Anyway, so that was in my head, and I thought I quite like to write a Cortez the Killer type song. I mean, it's got very different chords to my song. I'm not trying to use it as a template. I just really want to catch something of that circular, slightly unresolved vibe that Cortez the Killer had. So that was my musical touchstone, if you like. And then I thought I just probably won't put the 10-minute guitar solo in the middle, because I'm not Neil Young. I confess I'm like a sponge. If I'm writing a song, generally, and I'm normally writing a song, my ears are open, and if I hear something, I sort of tune in, and if I hear something, I think, oh, that's interesting. Maybe I could take that, whatever that interesting thing was, and just try and incorporate that into whatever song I'm writing at the moment. So, for example, this morning on the radio in the car was With or Without You by U2. And when Bono goes, whoa, my songwriter brain sort of goes, oh, I should stick some whoa-ohs in my next song. So I probably will. Why not? Now, I usually write first-person songs, but this is a third-person song. And the reason for that, I mean, I should say, although whether I write a first-person song or a third-person song, all my songs are about me, really. If you want to know everything about me, just read the lyrics to my songs, it'll tell you everything. But this is a third-person song because I was in the supermarket, and the Eagles' Life in the Fast Lane came on the radio. You know that thing, how's it go? He was a hard-headed man, he was brutally handsome, and she was terminally pretty. Life in the fast lane. Yep, I can't play that. Anyway, so that came on, and it's a song with, it's got a male and female characters, the two sort of main protagonists, and they are like cynical and jaded with too much of everything all the time. And I thought, how about making my song about a male and a female character, but maybe they're innocent and jaded, too much of nothing all the time. So that's where I sort of got my lyrical sort of framework from. And I was at a party, and my friend Linda, she was making a little speech, and she said something like, you know, I'm so blessed to have you all as my friends. You know, I was really lucky when I found my tribe. And that popped into my head when I was thinking about my female character, that, you know, she was looking for a tribe, but she never found her tribe. She was probably never going to find her tribe. So that's that first line that just goes, she was looking for her people, she still hadn't found her tribe. So I just lifted that, put that in my song. I should say I'll probably skip through some of this in a linear way. I wouldn't have written it in this linear way, but it's just easier to explain. I won't go through it in great detail, but I'll just pull out some of the main clues. The second line, I'm a bit embarrassed by, really, because it says, wondering if that ship had sailed by now. I really don't like cliches, and that's a bit of a cliche, isn't it? Wondering if that ship had sailed. Normally I would go out of my way not to have a cliche, you know. I'm never going to use a line like, you know, you could cut the tension with a knife. I would rather sit down for 10 minutes, 20 minutes and just try and find a way to put that into my own words and say something fresh. Like, I'm going to put myself on the spot now, aren't I? I don't know, you know, the tension was so thick that if you threw a knife at it, it would probably just bounce straight back and stab you in the heart or something. You know, I just try and be fresh. I think it's better to be original if you can. Later on, I think, you know, I could have easily just said, you know, she was just broken-hearted, crying her eyes out all the time. But instead I wrote, what did I write? You know, where her tears fell, she had scorch marks, her heart punctured beyond words. You know, I think those things are just worth spending 10 minutes just trying to work out, can I just say that in a more interesting way? I think it's what helps my songs sound a little bit more different, maybe. So I don't do this stuff to show off, I just make it more interesting for me to write them, really. So how have I got this cliche left in there? It's probably because I was writing all the lines around it, and in the end I just thought, do you know what, I think that line just works, so I just left it in there. But part of me thinks I should have gone and fixed it. I've got a mate, Mike, who's been playing guitar for 3 or 4 years, and he sometimes plays me the song. We meet up for jams occasionally. He plays me the song he's just been learning, and he played this. Give a little bit of your life to me. Give a little bit of your time to me. There's so much that we need to share, so send a smile and show you care. And when he played that last bit, I went, whoa, what did you do there? Show me that. And he just showed me this 2-finger slide thing. And I thought, oh, I could just use that in my song. So I just took that bit of Supertramp, and it's in my verse. It's in the bit that goes, all her grand plans had their own plans, which just wouldn't be ignored. And I use the same chords with a different melody in the coda. There is only so much dark night sky, a sunken face feeling lost in space. So I've changed the timing and the melody, so you'd never know that was Supertramp if I hadn't told you. It just fitted the song I was writing. I don't know if I said I'm like a magpie, really. I'm just like keeping my ears open for things to like grab, reappropriate, feather my nest with, just put my own little twist or stamp on them. And quite a lot of that stuff just works if you just pull it out of the air when it's going round. I'm always trying to make my songs more interesting for me to play, and partly to try and keep my fingers working as well. And I figure if they're a bit more interesting for me to play, hopefully they're a bit more interesting to listen to. So rather than go from this chord, she'd gotten left behind all her grand plans, rather than just go straight into that A minor, I just put this little E minor walkthrough in the middle. So it would go, she'd gotten left behind all the grand plans. And all I'm doing there is ripping off Pink Floyd, Wish You Were Here. Again, if it's good enough for Dave Gilmour, it's good enough for me. I just probably heard Wish You Were Here in passing and thought, oh, I could just put that in while I'm here. I'm just like assembling little bits and pieces, just grabbing what's around really. What else can I tell you about this song? I nicked something from Andy Dolphin too. His song that I'd just seen on the old group page, he had a very nice major to minor chord change. You know that old Cole Porter thing? How strange the change from major to minor. And I just wanted some way of reflecting that my characters were sort of getting into a sort of more melancholy space. So I got this sort of ambiguous chord. I'm not sure if it's a major or minor. And then I really wanted to go to a minor and make it clear that actually these people are pretty sad, they're pretty melancholic. So I just went, you know, what she needed was a simple life, which complicates life more. So thank you, Andy, for that. When I've got a line like, you know, what she needed was a simple life to complicate life more, that little wordplay thing, you know, the simple thing is the complicated thing. I'll just try and see if I can put that as a pattern into my song. So that's in the end, towards the end of verse 1. So I'm just looking to stick something like that into verses 2, 3, 4, whatever, which is why I've got things like she would stare into the madness, hoping that might drive her sane. It's just the same sort of idea, just a juxtaposition thing. Now this is a title challenge song, and the challenge was Shooting Star. I didn't set out to write a song called Shooting Star. That would box me in too much, and I'd end up probably just really being really resentful. I don't want to write a song particularly called Shooting Star. I just want to write whatever song is the song that I need to write at the moment. So then I've got a challenge. I was probably 2 or 3 verses in before I'm thinking, how do I get this to be a Shooting Star song? And it wasn't obvious. I'm scratching my head because, you know, my characters are getting more and more depressed. They are nothing like shooting stars, quite the opposite. And then that's a light bulb moment. Well, hang on, not everyone is a shooting star. So why don't I just go from that angle? That's my angle, you know, bang, and off we go. So so I've now then got to start thinking about, okay, how do I make sense of that so it all fits together more snugly? But the title sort of came quite a long way into the process. And rather than just write a whole song around the title, I already knew that there's a male verse, there's a female verse, there's going to be another male verse and female verse. There's going to be at least 4 verses. Then I'm going to need something, which turned out to be the coda, to draw those together. So I haven't got room for a chorus to come around loads of times. So I literally just put a tagline on the end, that thing that goes, the first time, not everyone's a shooting star, no. And so the first verse and the third verse I just go, not everyone's a shooting star, no. And then the second verse and the fourth verse I go, not everyone's a shooting star, some lives splutter, damp squib style. Again, just to make it slightly different, bit of colour. And that allowed me to put a firework joke in, which is pretty naff, isn't it? I was just thinking shooting star, that's like a rocket, a firework. What does a rubbish firework do? It just splutters out like a damp squib. So I think originally I had you know, some lives flatline, and I just changed it for some lives splutter, damp squib style. So that was just a joke for my own benefit really, which I didn't expect anyone else to get. I could have gone around the chorus playing this bog standard A minor and G thing. Not everyone is a shooting star, some lives splutter, damp squib style. And I probably had that for quite a way through, to be honest. But then I saw Billy Bragg on the old Top of the Pops, and he did this little G slide thing. He went in one song, and I thought, oh, I wonder if I could get that into my song. And I tried it in a couple of places, and it worked best in the chorus. So I then went, not everyone's a shooting star, some lives splutter, damp squib style. again, sounds better, doesn't it? It's just more interesting, I think. And while I'm fessing up, these two chords, the ones I didn't play very well in the run through earlier, in the little link, I just pinched from Supergrass. I'd heard Moving, the song, in a film that I'd seen that week at the cinema. Did you know that? Moving, just keep moving, till I don't know where to stay. So I love that song. I should listen to that. So that was just around in the atmosphere, and I just took those two chords and I played them in reverse order, and I just went to the changes much sooner, and then I put double up one chord and put a different chord behind it, so it went to this. So again, different. I've put my own stamp on it. Just a song which popped up, inspired me, and I just grabbed what I could use. Can I tell you anything else? Like most songwriters, I keep notes of ideas for lyrics. Sometimes when I'm writing a song and I've got too many lines, or I've got a good line but it doesn't quite fit, I'll stick that in my notebook. Or if I hear something, I'm sitting on a bus or something, I might write it down. And if I get stuck, I've got a bit of a hole, I'll probably flick through my list and see if I've got anything to fit. So a line like, what can I say, that thing about happenstance. Yeah, he was trying to learn the difference between chance and happenstance. That's an example of that. I had in my notebook, I think, what's the difference between chance and happenstance? And I just lifted that out, dropped it into the gap, just reshaped it a bit to fit. I'm sure all songwriters do a version of that. And my songs, as you will have noticed, are stuffed with words, way too many words, because I can't resist putting in lots of words. So I know that I have to break up those words sometimes with musical interludes, because otherwise they're relentless to listen to. But also, I just want to keep them more interesting for the listener. So the way I get from verse 4 into the coda started off from a ridiculous idea. I was thinking shooting star, and suddenly I had this idea, this David Bowie idea, shooting star man, and I thought maybe I could put that in as a joke, and then I thought that's just ridiculous, isn't it? That's never ever going to work. But then that got me thinking about Bowie and how he used to do nice little guitar links sometimes. And I was thinking about that thing in Space Oddity, where he just changes the mood of the song. That thing that goes... No, it's not that, is it? So I thought, well, maybe I could do one of those type of things now I've got David Bowie in my head. And again, I just played around for a little bit until I ended up with this. Which again just got me out of verse 4 into a slightly different mood for the coda, and that really helped. Am I telling you too much? I love rhymes. I love songs that rhyme. Don't get me wrong, I'm not looking for a perfect rhyme, and I hate contrived rhymes. I need the words to be the right words, but I really want them to try and rhyme. But I'm happy with a near rhyme. So what have I got here? I've got tribe with behind. I think that's fine. I've got was with lost. I think that's fine. I especially love internal rhymes, though. My songs are packed with them. I just love doing that. So I've got a line here. What is it? Hang on. I can't find it. Yeah, in his head the dead and dying were absorbing all the light. There's 12 words and 6 rhymes in there. Head and dead, dying, absorbing, die, light. My poetic heart just loves writing a line like that. I don't do it to show off. In fact, I'm sure most of those things just slide by unnoticed. I just do it because I just love the challenge of being able to do that and trying to do that. And it just makes my song more interesting, really. And sometimes I think it just helps me to get it to flow better. I'll tell you two more things, I think, then I'll probably need to do something else. I don't really play guitar solos. In fact, I'm still scarred by when I used to play in a band, and occasionally I'd have a guitar solo coming up, and I knew by the time it got there I was going to make a mess of it, and I always did. So I don't play guitar solos, and these days my fingers just aren't any good anyway. But I do try and write little maybe intros or outros sometimes. And one of the last things I'm doing probably is just trying to tidy up my lyrics. And while I'm doing that, just to give myself a break, I'll just try and work out, how am I going to get into this song? What am I going to play to get into this song? And so I'll start playing around with ideas. And this is just based around those two opening chords. There's that B minor 9, and there's that D 9/4. I'm just picking out notes from those chords to do this thing. So that's quite nice. So it just helps me find a way into the song, and again just keeps my fingers working, and hopefully develops me a little bit as a guitar player if I set myself a little challenge. And then the final thing I'll do, probably a wordsmith thing I do, is just try and incorporate the right sort of theme related language. You know, I think it helps a song if the lexicon is consistent throughout. So this is Shooting Star Song. So I'll just go back and work out, does the language sort of fit with that concept? I dug out my original coda, which I've got here, and it had these lyrics. They had splashed down in the river, drifting downstream in the flow, swirling faster, sliding under, where the undertow tempts tired souls out of this world. I quite like that, but it doesn't work in this song because although my characters are basically drowning in their loneliness and depression, I think it's confusing to add a splashdown and return to earth and a whole load of water language in a song where I've got two people whose lives have never taken off. You know, they've never left the ground. So I scrapped that water sort of language and tried to put in more space travel related language, if you like, the language of voids and black holes. What have I got in that coda in the end? I've got, they were standing by for liftoff, but the countdown never came. There's only so much dark night sky a soul can face, feeling lost in space and fizzling out. Not everyone hits the heights. Some stars collapse into the void, lost inside black holes of nothingness. I've got the word orbiting in the title line too, just to cement this all together. I think I've probably overdone it a bit with the space language, but again, that's just me trying to make the song feel like it's all part of the same thing. I hope some of this is interesting for you songwriters, and if it's not, forgive me for being completely self-indulgent. I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone has got on anything. Maybe just stick them in the comments, and you know, I'll pick those up. Maybe what I'll do is I'll just play Shooting Star again, slightly faster version. So you can maybe hear just some of what I've been talking about in terms of maybe just listen to the song slightly differently this time, because you'll know really where those little things fit together. And then I'll just pick up any questions or comments or anything that anyone wants to talk about, really. So this is a slightly quicker version of Shooting Star. She was looking for her people. She still hadn't found her tribe. Wondering if that ship had sailed by now and she'd gotten left behind. All her grand plans had their own plans, which just wouldn't be ignored. What she needed was the simple life, which complicates life more. He was trying to learn the difference between chance and happenstance, between loneliness and solitude with no real life friends to pass. He felt fragile, disconnected, scared how vulnerable he was, to be searching all this time to find he got completely lost. Not everyone is a shooting star. Some lives flutter down squib style, orbiting emptiness. Where her tears fell, she had scorch marks, her heart punctured beyond words. No one near to care what she might say, she'd stop talking to be heard. She was making poor decisions, but what difference could it make? She would stare into the madness, hoping that might drive her sane. Not everyone is a shooting star, no. In his head, the dead and dying were absorbing all the light. How he yearned for someone, anyone, to wade in and put things right. He was under no illusion, Cupid had him in his sights. He was sure no one could handle all the rage she held inside. Not everyone is a shooting star. Some lives splutter down squib style, orbiting emptiness. They were standing by for liftoff, but the countdown never came. There is only so much dark night sky, a sunken face feeling lost in space and busily now. Not everyone hits the heights. Some stars collapse into the void, lost inside black holes of nothingness. Thank you. Thank you for listening and indulging me with all this nonsense about my songs and songwriting. I don't know if there are any comments. I know there's a time lag. I will probably have to change. I've got something in the way of my screen, so I might have to look on my phone to see if there's any questions or anything that anyone wants to ask. 74 comments, gosh. Right, let me scroll through these. Hello everyone. Yeah, I can only see a few comments. I think it's because of the way it's live. So I've got a message. Yeah, so I don't know if there's anything anyone wants to ask. Maybe get Sandy to send it to me as a messenger or something. But otherwise, I don't know if there's anyone still out there in Facebook land. I can't quite see this on my phone. It's hard to see two things at the same time. Well, I hope that was interesting. I probably could sing one more song to finish, but I've been playing for like 50 minutes already. So unless anyone wants me to play, shall I play one more song? And then Sandy, if anyone's got a question that's a burning question, if you could pick it up and just maybe message it to me. Otherwise I'll just play this song and then I'll wish everyone a happy evening. I said I was 65. I had my 65th birthday last year, and to celebrate, I invited a whole load of friends onto the village green. I live near a village green, and I wrote a song for the occasion. The idea was it was a sing-along song so that everyone could join in with a chorus. And we had a lovely day. And this is my 65th birthday song called "On the Village Green." So I'll just play you this. On the village green, we're in good company. All our lives entwine here on the village green. On the village green, there's camaraderie. Raise a glass, say cheers, cheers on the village green. Feel free to sing that when it comes round. When I became an orphan nearly 50 years ago, I never dared to hope for a long life. Yet here I am with you, my friends, and my beautiful bride, to celebrate me turning 65. On the village green, we're in good company. All our lives entwine here on the village green. On the village green, there's camaraderie. Raise a glass, say cheers, cheers on the village green. You don't live long as I have lived without some tales to tell, but what I've done counts less than who I know. The stories of our lives are shaped by friendships made with those who journey with us through the highs and the lows. On the village green, we're in good company. All our lives entwine here on the village green. On the village green, there's camaraderie. Raise a glass, say cheers, cheers on the village green. You'd think I might be wise by now, but I grow more naive. Though mostly I'm just thankful to feel blessed. I couldn't want for more than to be strumming my guitar, surrounded by the folks who know me best. On the village green, we're in good company. All our lives entwine here on the village green. On the village green, there's camaraderie. Raise a glass, say cheers, cheers on the village green. There's folks who can't be here today, and others we've long lost. The old lang synes we've shared will always last. A toast to countless memories of those dear to our hearts. More blessed we've been than there are blades of grass. On the village green, we're in good company. All our lives entwine here on the village green. On the village green, there's camaraderie. Raise a glass, say cheers, cheers on the village green. If I could share one thing I've learned, I guess it would be this: we're all more lovable than we might think. and care for those in need. Together we will find community. On the village green, we're in good company. All our lives entwined here on the village green. On the village green, there's camaraderie. Raise a glass, say cheers, cheers on the village green. Raise a glass, say cheers, cheers on the village green. Thank you very much for tuning in to my showcase. I will just check in case I've got a message from anyone. Don't think so. So I'm probably going to end it there. But if there's anything that I said and you're like, oh, I don't know what he said there, or what was that thing you did, or remind me how that worked, just send a message in the comments, and I will happily explain that better. But thank you again to Sandy Stewart for giving me this invitation. Thanks to everyone who's out there who's going to be either watching it live or on the catch-up. And I just love being part of this community. It's such a great community to be part of. So thank you to all that goes into it, people behind the scenes, Gay, especially Sandy, and all the people who support and encourage me. Just love being part of this group. It's so special. So bless you. Have a good evening. I am now going to tune out. See you soon.